My father clinked a fork on his cup and smiled. Then he told everyone at the BBQ I wasn't his real daughter. I didn't cry. I hit record and drove straight to the courthouse. Because a stamped file can't be gaslit. When I opened it in front of the family, his whole image started to collapse. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening from in the comments. My name is Brianna. I'm 27 years old, and this is what really happened. Charcoal smoke curled into my hair the second I stepped through the side gate. Cicadas buzzed like static in the trees, and kids shrieked near the sprinkler. My dad tapped a plastic cup with a fork, and the clink snapped every head toward him. He lifted his drink like it was a toast and smiled like a man with a punchline. Sunlight flared in my eyes, then bounced off my phone screen in my pocket, and he said it, loud and proud. "She's not my real daughter." A few laughs tried to rise, then choked out halfway. My mom's face drained so fast it looked unreal. I felt a greasy napkin twist in my fist, tight as a tourniquet. Dad stayed smiling, waiting for my meltdown like it was dessert. His spatula scraped the grill, sharp and slow, like someone sharpening a blade. That sound and that clink fused together in my chest. The yard kept pretending for a second. Paper plates glared white on the table, sticky BBQ sauce shining on buns. My cousins stared at me like they were watching a show they didn't buy tickets for. I didn't give him the scream. I didn't give him the tears. I gave him one calm word that made his smile twitch. Me. Okay. That's the moment everything split in two. And the family version of me he controlled. And the version of me that started collecting receipts. Because my dad loved a crowd. He loved the little stage of a backyard BBQ. Folding chairs lined up like an audience. And he loved saying things he couldn't unsay because he thought nobody could prove him wrong. He'd been hosting the July 4th cookout for years, even when it wasn't July 4th. He called it tradition, like smoke could cover rot. The smell of charcoal always meant family, until that day it meant warning. When I walked in, I brought what I always brought, because that was my role. A tub of Walmart potato salad, cold and sweating through the plastic. And cheap sparklers from last summer, because the kids would beg for them later. Dad didn't thank me. He didn't even look at the food. Oh, he looked at me like he was checking if I'd grown a spine. Dad. Well, look who decided to show up. Me. Hi, Dad. Dad. Don't make it weird, Bree. He said that like I was the problem, not his jokes that landed like bruises, not the way he corrected my laugh, my clothes, my choices, right in front of other people. His new wife, Tessa, floated beside him like a prize he'd won. Fresh manicure, glossy hair, sunglasses too expensive for this yard. She'd been around 8 months, but she acted like she'd always owned the patio. Tessa. Hi, Brianna. Me. Hey. Tessa. Cute outfit. Very brave. Even her compliments had teeth. I nodded anyway, because I'd learned the rules. Smile. Be polite. Don't hand him a scene. My mom was near the patio door, laughing too hard at Aunt Denise's story. Her lipstick looked perfect. But her hands kept folding a greasy napkin tighter. Twist, press, twist again, like she could wring the truth out of it. Mom. Hey, honey. Me. You okay? Mom. Of course, it's a beautiful day. A dog barked somewhere down the block, and the cooler lid thudded shut again. Uncle Ray was already talking loud near the drinks, holding court like always. My cousin Jada bounced on her toes, searching faces for drama. Uncle Ray. Uh-oh, your daddy about to talk. Jada. Is he announcing something? Aunt Denise. Let him speak, y'all. That's when the fork hit the cup again. Clink. A bright, cheap sound that didn't belong to anything serious. My body remembered before my mind did, because he'd used that same listen up tone at my graduation. He'd used it outside the DMV when I was stuck in line, sweating, trying not to cry. Yet he'd used it in the leasing office when I signed my first apartment lease, like he owned my signature. Every time he made sure someone else was watching. If you humiliated me in private, it was just cruelty. If you humiliated me in public, it was a joke. So my hand went to my phone without thinking. The sun glare washed the screen in white, and I had to tilt it to see. My thumb hovered, then pressed record, and a tiny red dot appeared. It felt small, but small things change outcomes. The best lies sound casual, my mom used to say. The truth sounds like paperwork. And I was done trying to win against his voice. Dad dragged the moment out, sipping like a politician. People chuckled, relieved it might be harmless. Tessa smiled like she already knew how this would end. Dad, everybody. Oh, can I get your attention? Dad, I've got something I've been meaning to say for a long time. Dad, you all deserve honesty. He looked straight at me when he said honesty. Smoke drifted between us, thick and sweet, masking whatever burned underneath. My mom's napkin twisted so hard her fingers went shiny with grease. Jada leaned in, excited. Jada, is this about the lake house? Uncle Ray. Man, don't start nothing unless you brought ribs. Dad laughed, easy and warm, like he hadn't hurt anyone in his life. Dad, no, nothing like that. Dad, this is about family. That word, family, hit me like a dare. Because my whole life, he treated family like a title he could revoke, like a name he could cross out when it suited him. I watched his mouth form the sentence before it landed. I watched Tessa's hand tighten on his arm, at nails pressing into his skin. I watched the sun glare flash off my phone screen, making everything too bright to deny. Dad, she's not my real daughter. The yard didn't explode, it warped. A couple of people laughed, out of reflex, then stopped when nobody joined them. Aunt Denise blinked like she'd misheard, then stared at my mom. Uncle Ray's face folded into confusion, then into embarrassment. My little cousin froze mid-bite, BBQ sauce on his chin. Mom made a sound that wasn't a sob, just an inhale that hurt to hear. And Dad stayed smiling, like he'd finally said the thing he'd been rehearsing. My phone kept recording, steady as a witness. Dad, I'm just telling the truth. Dad, everybody's been pretending for years. The red dot blinked like a heartbeat I could control. And I realized something sharp, something clean. God, he didn't say it because it was true. He said it because he wanted it to be the only story left. I held my face still. I looked down at the ketchup smear on the rim of my plate, ridiculous and bright. My fingers tightened around my napkin until it was a rope. Then I looked back up at him and kept my voice calm. Me. Okay. His smile twitched again. Not victory. Confusion. Because I wasn't begging. I wasn't arguing. I was watching. And I was saving everything. Tessa leaned in to whisper to him, but he didn't break eye contact with me. He wanted the fight, and I didn't hand it over. I let the silence between us be my boundary. My mom reached for my wrist, her fingertips cold and sticky with napkin grease. Mom. Bree, please. Me. I'm fine. Mom. Don't do this here. Don't do what? Don't ask questions. Don't force the truth out where everyone can hear it. I scanned the yard like it was evidence. Folding chairs, paper plates, sauce stains, a family group clustered around one man's ego. This was his courtroom. He picked the audience and expected the verdict. But I had something he hated more than anger. I had proof. Dad tried to pull the crowd back with another fork clink. Clink. The sound made my stomach turn, but it also lit a fuse. Dad. See? That's what I'm talking about. Dad. Always playing the victim. Dad. Your mother filled your head with... Mom flinched at her name like it burned. And I felt the smoke again, thick in my nose, covering rot with tradition. I set my paper plate down on the patio rail, careful as a clerk filing a document. I turned toward the house, steady and quiet, while whispers started behind me. Yet the air conditioning hit my skin inside, cold and clinical, like a courthouse lobby. I walked straight to the hallway bathroom and locked the door. I stared at myself in the mirror, cheeks flushed from sun and fury. A strand of smoke-scented hair stuck to my lip gloss, and my eyes looked too steady. I checked the recording. Clear audio. Clear faces in the background, but his words were the headline. My phone buzzed with texts, one after another, like popcorn in a microwave. Jada. Bree, are you okay? Uncle Ray. Call me. Tessa. Your dad didn't mean it like that. I stared at Tessa's message until my jaw clenched. There is no gentle way to erase someone in public. There is only motive. I ran cold water over my wrists and breathed through the shock, not slow, not dramatic, just controlled. A memory surface that tasted like metal. A manila envelope disappearing into a locked drawer. My mom slamming it shut when I walked in, too fast, too guilty. A courthouse return address I wasn't allowed to ask about. When I was 9, I sat on the stairs and listened to my parents argue. Not about love, about paperwork. Support. Custody. Judge. Words that lived in our kitchen like knives. My mom's voice came through the door, low and panicked. Mom. Brianna, open up. Me. Give me a second. Mom. Please. Don't make this worse. Worse. Like the truth was a fire I would start. I opened the door a crack. Mom stood there alone, eyes glassy, napkin still mangled in her fist. She looked smaller than she did outside, like the yard was her mask. Mom. He's doing this on purpose. Me. Why? Mom. Because he thinks he can. I didn't let her drift into vague excuses. I asked the only questions that mattered, specific questions, the kind that lead to documents. Me. What courthouse? Mom. Bree. Me. What county? Mom. Stop. Me. Tell me the case number. Her eyes darted down the hall like the walls could repeat us, like there was a file listening. Then she swallowed. Hard. Mom. It's sealed. One word. Heavy as a stamp. I felt the fork clink in my bones again, but this time it didn't hurt. It focused me. Trigger, then go time. Me. Then I'm unsealing it. Me. County Clerk. Case number 2024-17823. Me. If he wants court truth, I'll bring court truth. Mom's breath caught, and her napkin finally stopped twisting. Outside, Dad's laugh cut through the screen door like nothing happened, and my phone in my pocket kept blinking, quietly collecting receipts. Yeah, I stepped past my mom and headed for my purse on the kitchen chair. My Starbucks cup from the drive over sat next to my keys, sweating on the counter. I grabbed it like I needed the familiar weight to stay calm, because I was done being real only when it benefited him, and I was done letting him rewrite me with one sentence. I walked back toward the patio, with my phone still recording. The sun glare hit the screen again, bright and merciless, and Dad lifted his cup once more, ready to say it again for the people in the back. The fork hit the cup again, louder this time, like he wanted to reset the moment. Clink. He smiled at the relatives, then at me, and said it again like he was proud. She's not my real daughter. He smiled at the relatives, then at me, and said it again like he was proud. She's not my real daughter. The smell hit me first. Charcoal and lighter fluid, hot metal, sweet smoke clinging to clothes, BBQ sauce and sunscreen and cut grass, all mixed into one sticky breath. That scent used to mean summer. It used to mean sparklers and overcooked hot dogs, and my mom yelling at us to stop tracking grass inside. Now it smelled like something burning on purpose. Aunt Denise's hand froze midair with a paper plate. Uncle Ray stopped chewing like his jaw forgot how. Even the kids near the sprinkler slowed down, confused. Somebody's cheap cologne drifted through the heat. Someone else had onion rings in a foil tray, and the fried smell tried to cut the smoke. Nothing could cut it. Dad didn't look nervous, he looked satisfied, like he'd finally pulled the pin and was waiting for the blast. Tessa's perfume floated over the charcoal, sharp and floral. It reminded me of mall department stores and fake compliments. She glanced at my mom like she already knew the punchline. Dad, I'm not trying to be mean. Dad, I'm just done lying. The grill popped as grease hit flame. Smoke rolled across the patio and settled in my hair. My phone stayed angled at my side, red dot blinking. Mom's eyes locked on mine. Her napkin twisted tighter, shiny with grease. She looked like she was begging without words. Dad heard my mom inhale and seized it. He pointed his cup at her like a microphone. Dad, tell them, Marisol. Dad, tell them I'm wrong. The way he used her full name always meant punishment, like he was calling a defendant to the stand. As I could smell beer on his breath when the wind shifted. Aunt Denise stepped forward, voice shaky. Aunt Denise. Marcus, why would you say that here, Dad? Because this family deserves facts. Uncle Ray tried to break it with a joke. Uncle Ray. Man, it's hot. Everybody drink water. Dad. No, not this time. Jada stared at me like she was waiting for my reaction. She had her phone out too, pretending she was texting, but her camera lens was aimed. Jada. Are you serious? Dad. Dead serious. The neighbor's backyard had music playing, something old school and warm. It clashed with the sharpness in our yard. I caught the smell of citronella from a candle near the patio steps. Dad turned back to me, hunting for the crack in my face. Dad. Bree, you want to tell them? Dad. Or should I? Sun glare flashed off my phone screen when I shifted. Too bright to hide behind. Me. You already told them. His smile twitched. He liked me pleading, not standing still. Dad. Look at her. Dad. Always got that attitude. Dad. Always thinking she's smarter than everybody. A wave of heat rolled over the yard. Not just weather. The kind that comes from a crowd deciding what to believe. My aunties looked at each other, whispering. My cousins shifted like the folding chairs suddenly pinched. Somebody fanned themselves with a paper plate that smelled like sweet sauce and vinegar. The smell of sauce turned sour in my nose. A fly landed on a bun, then crawled across it like it owned the table. I watched it and thought coldly of fingerprints. Dad walked closer, careful and controlled. His voice dropped like he wanted intimacy. Dad. I raised you, didn't I? Dad. So don't act shocked. He said raised like it was a favor, like I was a bill he paid once and regretted. The smoke wrapped around him like a crown. Me. If you raised me, why are you doing this? My mom made a tiny sound behind him, a warning. Dad's smile sharpened. He loved the moment right before someone breaks. Dad. Because I'm not going to be played. Dad. Not with my house. Dad. Not with my money. Dad. Not with what I built. There it was, the real reason, leaking out through the smoke. Uncle Ray shifted. Uncle Ray. Marcus, you talking about that deed again? Dad. I'm talking about my legacy. Legacy sat in the air like a greasy thumbprint. I could almost see it when the light hit right. Tessa touched his arm like she was reminding him who he was protecting. Her nails were perfect, bright against his sun-reddened skin. She smelled like clean laundry and expensive soap. Tessa. Babe, you don't have to. Dad. Yes, I do. He said it like the calendar belonged to him. Like the yard belonged to him. Like my name belonged to him, too. Aunt Denise moved toward me, eyes wet. Aunt Denise. Bree, come here, please. Dad snapped without looking at her. Dad, don't coddle her. Dad, she's grown. Aunt Denise didn't listen. She guided me a few steps toward the side of the house. The air smelled different there. Sun-baked siding, and mint from my mom's herb pot. Aunt Denise. He's doing this because of paperwork. Me. What paperwork? She glanced back to make sure Dad wasn't right behind us. Then she leaned in like she was passing a secret at church. Aunt Denise. Years ago I saw a folder in your mom's hands. Aunt Denise. Manila, thick. Aunt Denise. I remember because it smelled like toner and old paper. That detail made my throat tighten. Paper has a smell when it's been handled in fear, like dust and ink and sweat. Aunt Denise. I heard Marcus screaming about family court and signing. Aunt Denise. Something like an acknowledgement. Aunt Denise. Like he signed after you were already here. The word folder landed hard. Folders don't lie. Folders don't have moods. Me. So he chose it. Aunt Denise. Bree. I think so. Behind us, Dad raised his cup again. The fork hit plastic. Clink. Dad. Since everybody wants to act confused. Dad. Ask her mother why she kept secrets. Mom's face tightened. Tessa's lips curled like she'd been waiting. Dad. Ask her why she tried to trap me. Trap. His favorite word for accountability. Someone added more coals. Lighter fluid flared, stinging my nose. The chemical smell cut through everything, harsh and bitter. My eyes watered, and Dad pointed like he'd caught a victory. Dad. See? Dad. Here we go? Me. I'm not crying. Me. I'm inhaling your backyard. A couple of people made small nervous sounds, half laughs, half relief. Dad didn't. My mom stepped forward, voice thin. Mom. Marcus, stop. Dad. Answer them. He turned to her again, cup still raised. Dad, tell them I'm her father. The way he framed it was a trap. If she said yes, he'd call her a liar. If she hesitated, he'd call it proof. Mom's fingers trembled. She smelled like coconut lotion in panic. Her napkin shredded in her fist, greasy pieces falling to the deck. A phone buzzed near the table, then another. Group chats waking up like hornets. Mine buzzed too. A new text from an unknown number. Unknown. Tessa's pushing probate stuff. Don't react. I looked up and caught Jada's eyes. She gave the smallest nod. So it was her. Allie. Not loud, not dramatic. Just a quiet hand on the rope when it starts to snap. Dad kept talking, louder. Dad. I'm not going to leave anything to someone who isn't even mine. Tessa watched the relatives' faces like she was counting votes. My aunties started whispering louder now, not even trying to hide it. Aunt Denise's mouth pressed into a hard line. Dad took one step, then another, toward me. He smelled like smoke, beer, and pride. And underneath it, something sour. It's like a lie that's been reheated too many times. Dad, you think you're a Mitchell. Dad, you think you're on the deed. Dad, you think you're in my will. Hearing my last name in his mouth felt like he was trying to peel it off me. I'd used it on every form that mattered. Apartment lease, insurance, DMV paperwork in a long line under buzzing lights. It wasn't a vibe. It was a legal identity. And he was trying to snatch it back like a toy. Me. I don't think anything. Me. I have a driver's license with that name. Me. So do you. Dad's eyes narrowed. Tessa shifted, shoulders tight. Dad's voice went softer, more dangerous. Dad. That can be fixed. A chill ran under my skin. He didn't mean emotionally. He meant procedurally. Uncle Ray finally spoke, trying to sound like the adult. Uncle Ray. Marcus? Yeah, you can't just... Dad. Watch me. The smell of smoke thickened again as the wind shifted. It pushed toward the house like the day was hurting me, like it wanted me inside where the real records lived. I took a slow breath through my nose, smoke, sauce, sunscreen, fake sweetness over something rotten. Then I stepped closer to my dad, just enough. Me. Say it again. Dad. What? Me. Say it into my phone. His eyes flicked down. He finally noticed the angle of my hand, the red dot. For the first time, caution crossed his face. Not guilt, caution. Tessa stiffened. Tessa, are you recording? Me. Yes. The crowd reacted like I'd pulled a curtain. A chair scraped. Somebody dropped a plastic fork and it clattered on the deck. Dad tried to grab control fast. Check, Dad. Of course she's recording. Dad. Always building a case. He said it like an insult, but it sounded like prophecy. Me. Good. Me. Because I like cases. Me. And you like crowds. I turned toward the sliding door. I didn't run. I didn't stomp. Behind me, Dad's voice chased my back. Dad. Go on. Dad. Run inside like you always do. He wanted the last word, so I let him think he had it. Because my last word wasn't going to be spoken, it was going to be stamped. I stepped into the kitchen and the air changed. Less smoke, more lemon cleaner, dish soap, and something dusty, like old paperwork in a drawer. My mom followed, fast and trembling. The screen door thudded shut behind us, sealing out the yard. Outside, the fork clinked again, muffled but still sharp. Clink. Mom grabbed my wrist like she was trying to stop time. But Mom. Bree, please. Me. Tell me what he's really talking about. Her eyes filled, but she didn't let the tears fall. She looked past me toward the hallway, toward the drawer where she kept the things she never wanted me to see. Mom. If you go looking, Mom, you might find what he tried to erase. And the smell of charcoal still lived in my hair as I reached for my keys. And the smell of charcoal still lived in my hair as I reached for my keys. The kitchen was brighter than the yard, but it wasn't warm. Sunlight blasted through the window above the sink, turning every crumb into a spotlight. My phone screen caught the glare and flashed white, like it was daring me to look. Mom stood between me and the hallway like a thin door. Her eyes kept flicking to the drawer by the microwave, then back to my face. She wasn't trying to protect me from him. She was trying to protect him from paper. A car passed outside, bass rattling the glass. Mom. Please don't go digging. Me. He dug first. Mom. Brianna. The light on the counter shimmered off a Starbucks lid, and I hated how normal it looked. Like this was just another Sunday. I set my keys down slowly so my hands stayed steady. Me. Tell me what's in that drawer. Mom. Nothing you need. Me. If I didn't need it, he wouldn't be using it. Her throat worked like she was swallowing rocks. The overhead light buzzed, faint and constant. Outside, a chair scraped and laughter rose. Too loud, too forced. Mom. He's trying to bait you. Me. He announced me like a rumor. Me. I'm not letting him turn me into a question mark. I picked up my phone and tilted it until the glare disappeared. And my reflection sat there, sharp and exposed, in plain light. That's what cut the deepest. Not the sentence itself. The certainty on his face when he said it. My dad didn't fear feelings, he feared timestamps. Mom's fingers touched my elbow, gentle and desperate. Her skin was cool and her nails were bitten down. She looked like she'd been holding this alone for years. Mom. He wants you to yell. Me. I'm not giving him volume. Me. I'm giving him a file. The word made her flinch. Light caught the wet in her eyes, turning it bright like glass. She leaned in and lowered her voice. Mom. There was a case. Me. I know. Mom. And it's not like he's saying. The house felt too clean all at once, like she'd tried to scrub the past out. Lemon cleaner and dish soap covered everything, but nothing erased fear. And every surface looked staged under that bright light. Me. Was it paternity? Mom. It was. Family court. Me. That's not an answer. She stared at the tile like it held instructions. Light from the window cut across her cheek, half shadow and half blown out. I remembered a different kitchen bulb, flickering over a different fight. In that old apartment, I sat on the stairs holding a Walmart receipt. Mom told me to keep it safe, and I didn't understand why. Later I did. That receipt had a red smear of ink where the printer glitched. Mom flattened it under a lamp like it was priceless, and the light made the numbers look harsh. I didn't know then that adults save paper when they're being lied about. I remembered the DMV line the summer after, the fluorescent lights buzzing over our heads. Dad showed up late, smiling like he'd done us a favor, and told the clerk he'd handled everything. Mom didn't argue, she just slid her folder forward, calm, with copies. Light always reveals who comes prepared. Dad, you can't prove what I did. Mom, the court can. Dad, then make the court try. That memory snapped into place so hard my teeth ached. I walked to the sink and turned the faucet on full cold. Sunlight lit the water stream like a clear blade. I pressed my wrists under it until my skin went numb. The cold gave me control, a clean edge to hold. My breathing slowed into something useful. Mom. Bree, stop. Me. I'm listening. Mom. Not like this. She looked toward the patio door like he could hear through glass. The screen cast a grid of light on the floor, perfect little squares. It looked like a cage made of sunshine. At Mom. He's been waiting for an audience. Me. So have I. Me. Now he gets records. I shut off the faucet and the sudden quiet made the buzzing light louder. My greasy napkin from outside was still in my fist, shredded at the edges. I set it on the counter like evidence. Me. When did the court first touch our family? Mom. Brianna. Me. A year. Give me a year. She stared at my phone like it was a flashlight aimed at a hiding place. Then she whispered, barely audible. 2008. That year sat in my memory like a missing tooth. I'd been 9, and everything got secret. Dad moved out for work, and Mom didn't let me ask where. 9 was also the year my birthday photos went missing from the family wall. The spot stayed lighter where the frame had been, sun faded around the edges. It's like the house itself kept an outline. Dad said the picture fell, but it didn't feel like an accident. That was the year Mom stopped leaving mail on the counter. Certified envelopes went straight into her purse, hidden under grocery coupons and a folded Kroger circular. I'd see her read them in the car, using the rearview mirror light like it was a secret flashlight. And that was the year Dad started calling me dramatic whenever I asked simple questions. Me. What was the case called? Mom. I don't remember the exact title. Me. Yes, you do. Light flared off the stainless steel fridge handle like a camera flash. Mom's face reacted like she'd been hit. Then she finally said the word. Mom. It was about guardianship. Me. Guardianship of who? Mom. You. Guardianship wasn't a fight between lovers. It was the court deciding who gets to matter, who gets to sign, who gets to claim, who gets to call themselves family. I pictured a courtroom with white walls and hard benches, washed in that flat overhead light that makes everyone look guilty. My mom sitting alone with a folder on her lap. My dad across the aisle, acting calm for strangers, then turning sharp the second the doors closed. He always loved the difference between public and private. The light was the divider. Me. So he knew back then? Mom. No. Mom. He knew exactly what you were. Her voice cracked on, exactly. She reached for the drawer handle, then stopped, like her hand had a leash. Light from the window burned on the wood, warm and innocent. Me. Open it. Mom. I can't. Me. You can. You've just been scared. She searched my face for the little girl she could soothe. But I wasn't 9 on the stairs anymore. I was 27, and my name was on leases, pay stubs, and a social security card. Mom. He'll punish you. Me. He already did. Me. Now he's just doing it in sunlight. Outside, Dad's laugh rose like he'd won the yard back. Smoke seeped through the crack under the patio door anyway. It carried that sweet, rotten summer smell straight into our kitchen. Mom. He tried to terminate things. Me. Terminate what? Mom. His rights. The overhead light made her look older, every line exposed. She spoke faster now, like the truth was spilling out on its own. He tried to avoid support, Bree. He tried to disappear. My hands went steady in a way that scared me, like something inside had finally stopped begging. And I stared at Mom and kept my voice flat. Me. So, he chose fatherhood when it made him look good. Mom. Bree? Me. And when it cost him money, he tried to erase it. A loud clink cut through the kitchen, even through glass and distance. Fork on cup again, impatient. The sound didn't spike my panic this time. It gave me direction. Me. Answer me like you're in front of a judge. Mom. Okay. Me. What was the case number? She went very still. Her shoulders dropped like the truth was heavy enough to pull her down. Then she said it, careful and deadly. Mom. It was sealed. Me. That's not the number. Mom. That's the problem. She pressed her palm to her forehead, eyes squeezed shut. I don't have the paperwork anymore, she said. He took it after the hearing. Me. He took it from this house? Mom. Yes. Mom. He said he was protecting you. I tasted something bitter, like old metal, protecting me by stealing the truth, controlling what I could prove. Me. Did the court deny him? Mom didn't answer fast enough. Light made that hesitation obvious, like guilt caught on camera. My phone buzzed again. Jada. He's telling people you're unstable. Like you'll do something. The sunlight on my screen made the words hard to read. Me. He's laying groundwork. Mom. Because then he looks like the victim. Me. Exactly. I opened the pantry, letting the bright kitchen light spill inside. Cereal boxes, canned beans, and a stack of random envelopes sat in the back. The smell of paper and dust hit me, familiar and sharp. So, Mom, you don't understand what he did back then. Me. Then tell me. Mom. He filed things. Then he didn't show. She kept going, voice shaking, but honest. Then he came back acting like he was saving you, she said. Like we should thank him for returning. Me. Did a judge write anything about him? Her eyes darted away. Light caught it, plain and bright. Mom. There were notes. Me. About what? Mom. Abandonment and behavior. Outside, Dad shouted my name like he was calling a dog. The smoke smell shoved in with his voice. My trigger turned into my timing. Mom. If you go to the courthouse, he'll know. Me. Good. Me. He wanted a show. Now he gets records. The sunlight on the floor shifted as a cloud passed, and the kitchen dimmed. For 1 second it felt like relief. Then the light returned, bright and merciless. Me. Tell me the county. Mom. Brianna. Me. County. Now. Her mouth trembled, and she glanced toward the patio door again. Then she said it. Harris County. My fingers moved in my notes app without drama. County. 2008. Guardianship. Termination attempt. Plain light, plain words. A map. Mom. You're going to destroy him. Me. He tried to destroy me first. Me. I'm just bringing a stamp to a lie. She let go of my arm like it burned her. In the bright kitchen light, she looked ashamed and relieved at the same time, like she finally set a weight down. The fork clinked again outside, impatient. My trigger. My go time. I picked up my keys and met her eyes. Me. I'll be back. Mom. Bri. Me. Lock the drawer. If he comes looking, tell him the sunlight already saw everything. Me. I'll be back. Mom. Bree. Me. Lock the drawer. But if he comes looking, tell him the sunlight already saw everything. The door handle felt slick with old kitchen grease when I pulled it, and my fingers left faint prints in the metal. Outside, heat wrapped around my wrists like a warning band. Smoke clung to my hair, but the thing I couldn't shake was that oily film from the napkin grease. It made me aware of every touch, every surface, every choice. Dad's voice carried from the patio, bright and practiced, like he could reset the crowd with laughter. I didn't look at him, because looking is a form of permission. I slid my phone into my back pocket and felt the hard rectangle press into my hip. It was a small weight, but it steadied me. Proof doesn't need to be loud to be heavy. My purse strap dug into my shoulder as I grabbed it from the kitchen chair, and the pressure grounded me. And pain is honest when people aren't. I moved through the hallway like I'd done 1,000 times as a kid. Family photos lined the wall, and I brushed the frames on purpose as I passed. Cold glass, warm wood, fingerprints that didn't belong to Dad's speech outside. One frame was missing, the lighter square of paint still visible like an outline someone tried to scrub away. I ran my thumb over the edge where it used to hang, slow and deliberate. 9-year-old me had lived inside that rectangle, and someone decided she didn't deserve the wall. I kept walking, because nostalgia is a trap if you stay in it. The screen door stuck like it always did, so I had to push harder than normal. Palm flat, shoulder leaned in, mesh scraping my skin through the pressure. That scrape made my jaw tighten in a clean way. And I stepped onto the patio, and the deck boards pressed heat through my sandals. The wood had that gritty texture that grabs at your soles, and every step felt final. Aunt Denise started toward me and stopped mid-reach, like touch might shatter me. Aunt Denise. Bree, where are you going? Me. To the county clerk. Aunt Denise. Today? Me. The second the courthouse opens. I kept my voice soft, but my hand was already on my car keys. The metal teeth bit into my palm, sharp and real, and I liked the sting. Dad turned, finally noticing I was leaving, and his eyes narrowed like he could grip me with a look. Dad. Look at her. Dad. Running away like always. Dad. See why I'm saying what I'm saying? My skin prickled, but not from shame. From the urge to turn and correct him in front of everyone. I let the urge pass through me and out of me, because correction isn't revenge. Records are, and records don't need my voice to be loud. I walked down the steps with my hand sliding along the rail, paint chipped and rough against my fingertips. I liked that the rail didn't pretend to be smooth. Right before I hit the driveway, Jada appeared near the cooler and moved fast. She slipped beside me like she'd planned it and kept her voice low. Jada. I got you. Me. Why? Jada. Because he's lying. Jada. And because Tessa's sniffing around paperwork. She touched my elbow, quick and steady, not a hug but a brace. My keys shifted in my fist, and the ridges left marks, the kind you feel for hours. Relief slid in under my anger, because motives are easier to fight than mystery. But me. Since when? Jada. Since Tessa started asking about the house. Me. What did he say? Jada. That you're not legally anything. Jada handed me a cold bottle of water from the cooler, and condensation soaked my palm instantly. Cold, slick, real, snapping me back into my body. Touch is a reset button when everything else is chaos. Jada. Drink. Me. Thanks. Jada. He's telling Aunt Cheryl you're unstable. Jada. Like you'll do something if you find out. Me. Then the family was already messed up. I twisted the cap and the plastic ridges dug into my fingers, even the smallest action requiring control. Behind us, the spatula scraped the grill again, metal on metal, sharp as a threat. Tessa called out, voice honeyed, like she could smooth this over with a smile. Tessa. Brianna, sweetie, don't be dramatic. Her words brushed my back like oily hands, and I hated that it was a familiar feeling. Me. I'm not dramatic. Me. I'm documented. I didn't let her see my face for long, because some people feed on expressions. A couple of cousins went still, and Tessa's smile tightened at the edges. Dad started forward, but Uncle Ray drifted into his path without meaning to. The vibe had shifted, and even Uncle Ray could feel it in his bones. I walked to my car, and the asphalt radiated heat through my soles like a stove. The door handle was hot enough to sting, and I welcomed it. Inside, the steering wheel felt tacky from the sun, a texture that makes your teeth grind. I wrapped a paper towel around it from my glove box and gripped the wheel through that barrier. Touch can make you lose your mind faster than words. And I started the engine and felt the seatbelt click across my chest, tight and firm like a boundary. At the stop sign, my thumb opened the browser on my phone, and the sun glare flashed across the screen. I tilted it until the letters sharpened, because truth always needs the right angle. I searched Harris County Clerk Case Search Family Court, then added my name, then his. Nothing clean popped up, just links, warnings, logins, and 1,000 ways to get lost. Systems don't hide things, people do, using systems like curtains. I parked in a shaded spot near a strip mall and opened my laptop on my knees. The laptop edge pressed into my thighs through denim, sharp and annoying, and I let it. A DMV line inside the little office next door moved slowly, people holding folders with tired faces, and I watched them through the windshield and felt a weird sting of jealousy. Their paper was visible. Mine was behind seals and silence. I typed my full name, then my old nickname, then every variation that ever showed up on a report card. Brianna Mitchell. Brianna M. Bree Mitchell. Then I tried Mom's last name, the one Dad pretended didn't exist unless it benefited him. Brianna Torres. Brianna T. Bree Torres. A docket entry blinked up like a tiny lighthouse. Not the whole file but a breadcrumb. In small, cold text, my name sat next to respondent, and his sat next to petitioner. The word petitioner made my fingertips go numb, because it meant he'd asked the court for something with his name on it. My finger tapped the trackpad too hard and my nail clicked, touch betraying tension. The portal asked for a case number to see more. And of course it did. The system wanted the exact key, not my feelings. I opened a notes page and started a list like I was building a map. Years: 2007, 2008, 2009. Court types: family, juvenile, probate. Then I remembered Mom's word, guardianship, and my stomach tightened. Guardianship means control. Guardianship means signatures. I searched again, narrower, and a second entry appeared, older and thinner, like it had been starved. A line jumped out and made my fingers go cold. Order on parentage/support. Filed, 2008, the year my birthday photos disappeared from the wall. I clicked and the page loaded slowly, like it was deciding whether I deserved access. My trackpad felt gritty under my finger, so I wiped it on my jeans and kept going. A warning popped up. Some documents in this case are sealed. My throat tightened, but not with panic. With confirmation. Sealed means real, and sealed means someone fought to keep it out of sight. My dad had just dragged it into the sun with a sentence at a BBQ. I copied the partial case identifier the portal allowed and pasted it into my notes, because even crumbs can lead you home. Then I saw it, sitting there like a closed fist. Judgment entered. No details, just the word that ends arguments. I snapped 2 screenshots, making sure the date and names were visible, and my phone vibrated in my hand with each capture. Then the portal timed out and logged me off, like a door slamming shut on my fingertips. I stared at the blank login screen and smiled once, small and mean. Me. You can't unexist me. I didn't reply. I saved the screenshots to a folder named BBQ because I wanted the record tied to his moment. Then I opened a checklist, the kind I use for errands, and turned it into a plan with teeth. I wrote down what a courthouse respects, not what a family argues about. Driver's license, debit card for fees, a pen that won't smear, a folder thick enough to hold what he tried to burn. Making the list calmed my hands, one item at a time. I drove to the nearest office depot because I wanted paper in my hands, not just pixels. The parking lot speed bumps jolted my seat, and each bump felt like a reminder to stay awake. Inside, the AC hit my arms cold, and the air smelled like toner and cardboard. I waited behind 2 people at the print counter, watching them tap impatiently on the laminate. My fingertips rubbed that surface too, smooth and fake, and I kept thinking about courthouse counters. When it was my turn, yet I handed the employee my phone like I was handing over a weapon. Me. Can you print these screenshots? Employee. Sure, color or black and white? Me. Black and white. Me. And I need them crisp. The paper came out warm, edges sharp, and I ran my thumb along the margin to feel how clean it was. Words on paper hit different than words on a screen, like they carry weight in the fibers. Date, names, judgment entered, all sitting there like cold facts. My stomach tightened, but my hands stayed steady. The stapler on the counter was heavy, and when I pressed it down, it made a clean metal crunch. That sound felt like progress, like a door locking behind me. I slid the pages into a manila folder, and the paper rasped against itself, dry and certain. At the register, I grabbed a cheap pack of sticky tabs and a blue pen. But because labeling is power. The cashier's fingers brushed mine when she handed back my card, and the small contact jolted me. Touch is weird when you're carrying a secret big enough to crack a family. Back in my car, I opened my glove box and dug until my social security card slid under my nail. The plastic edge nicked me, tiny, and I pressed my fingertip until the sting faded. If the courthouse asked who I was, I wanted to answer with documents, not tone. I flipped the card over and felt the raised lettering under my thumb, my name embossed in the simplest way. Not his to grant, not his to revoke. I opened maps and searched Harris County Clerk's office hours, and my finger dragged across the glass, leaving a faint smear. Monday morning, 8 a.m., printed in clean font like the system didn't care about drama. And I set an alarm and felt the phone vibrate against my palm as it saved, like the future tapping back. Then a text came in from Dad, and the bottle in my hand almost slipped. Dad, don't you dare go digging. Dad, you'll regret it. Dad, don't you dare go digging. Dad, you'll regret it. I read it twice, then locked my phone without replying. His threats always wanted oxygen, and I decided to starve them. Silence was the first boundary I could enforce. That night, charcoal smoke followed me into my apartment like a curse. My hair smelled like Sunday, but my chest was already in Monday mode. I showered until my skin went pink, and the scent still clung. I laid my manila folder on the table beside my apartment lease packet. Paper next to paper, the only language he couldn't sweet-talk. And I slid sticky tabs onto the edge like little flags. One tab said, BBQ video, and one said, portal entry. Another said, ID plus SS. Because the courthouse doesn't care about feelings. It cares about who can prove they're standing in front of it. I set my alarm for 6:15 a.m. and left my keys in the same spot. Control is a habit you build on purpose, not a mood you wait for. I went to bed with my phone face down, like I didn't trust light. At 6:15, the alarm buzzed and my body sat up before my thoughts did. Outside, the world looked washed out and quiet, like it hadn't heard my dad's voice yet. I dressed simple. Jeans, black tee, sneakers that didn't squeak. In the parking lot, my neighbor hauled a trash bag to the dumpster and nodded at me. We both looked like we were doing normal life, and that almost broke me, and I nodded back and kept walking anyway. I drove toward downtown with my folder riding shotgun. Traffic thickened as the sun climbed, and every brake light looked like a warning. My hands stayed at 10 and 2 like a promise. The courthouse area always feels like a different city, same streets, but heavier, like the air has rules, more concrete, less kindness. I parked in a garage that smelled like oil and hot dust. The space echoed, cars coughing, doors slamming, footsteps bouncing off pillars. People moved fast without smiling, like time cost money here. In the elevator, two men in suits stared at their phones like they were hiding. A woman in scrubs held a toddler on her hip and looked exhausted. The toddler stared at my folder like it was a toy. When the doors opened, the building swallowed us. Cold air, bright lights, and that faint scent of copier toner drifting from somewhere deep. I followed the crowd toward security. The line curved around stanchions, slow and tight. Bodies too close, shoulders brushing, bags bumping knees. This wasn't a family gathering. It was a human holding pen. A man behind me sighed loud, like he wanted his anger to be seen. A woman in front kept tapping her foot, heel clicking a steady metronome. I held my folder to my chest so nobody could touch it. The security guard barked instructions without looking up. Guard. Belts off, keys out, laptops in a bin. Guard. No weapons, no liquids, move. A metal detector stood like a mouth you had to walk through, one by one. It made every person hesitate for half a second, like guilt lives in metal. I thought of Dad's fork clink, and my stomach tightened. At the table, and I emptied my pockets into a gray bin. My keys clattered sharp, and my phone slid in last, screen dark and glareless. The guard reached for my folder like it was suspicious. Guard. What's this? Me. Court records request. Guard. Family? Me. Yes. He held my eyes longer than he needed to, then shoved the folder back. His ring scraped the plastic edge, a small, ugly sound. Guard. Keep it closed until you're upstairs. The detector beeped for someone behind me, and the whole line stalled. A woman groaned and started peeling off jewelry with shaking fingers. Space tightened and the air got warmer. When I stepped through, the machine stayed quiet. I exhaled slow, like I'd been holding my breath since the BBQ. On the other side, I rebuilt myself. Belt, keys, phone, folder. I followed signs toward the county clerk's office. Bet the hallway felt endless, lined with doors and posted rules. No food, no drinks, no cell phone use in certain areas. A security camera watched from the corner like a blank eye. I kept my face neutral because I've learned how to be boring on purpose. Boring gets you access. The clerk's office waiting area was packed. Plastic chairs in rows, people shoulder to shoulder, papers spilling from folders. The air held stale perfume, sweat, and cheap coffee. A digital screen flashed ticket numbers, and a little speaker crackled names. Every few minutes, someone stood up too fast, grabbing documents like lifelines. I pulled a number and held the slip between my fingers. Thin paper, rough edges, tiny ink letters. A number that decided how long I'd wait to be seen. I sat and watched the room like it was evidence. And a man argued quietly into his phone, jaw working. A teenage girl hugged a backpack and stared at the floor like she was shrinking. In the corner, a man in a wrinkled polo cried without sound. The crowd wasn't dramatic, it was defeated. It made my dad's backyard feel like a stage play with props. I opened my folder and flipped to the printed screenshots. The paper rasped, loud in the quiet patches between announcements. I covered the top with my palm so nobody could read names. Then the cold thought landed again, clean and brutal. Because he thought I couldn't pull the file. Because he thought sealed meant safe. Because he thought I'd crumble. My number flashed, and I stood with knees stiff from the plastic chair. I walked to the counter where thick glass separated me from the clerk. Even truth has a barrier here. Yes, the clerk was a woman with tired eyes and a neat bun. Her name tag read M. Henderson, and her hands moved fast. She looked like she'd seen every kind of heartbreak. Clerk. Ticket? Me. Here. She took my slip and typed, nails clicking on laminate. I could hear keyboards all around, a small storm of data entry. Clerk. What do you need? Me. Public docket lines and any non-sealed orders for a sealed family case. Clerk. You got a case number? Me. Not the full one. Her eyes lifted, flat and practiced. Clerk. We can't search sealed cases without identifiers. Me. I have partial portal entries. I slid the screenshot forward through the slot. Paper scraped against the counter, and the sound felt final. Space mattered here. Everything passed through openings, nothing personal. To clerk. Name? Me. Brianna Mitchell. Clerk. Date of birth? Me. May 14th, 1998. Clerk. Other party? Me. Marcus Mitchell. I didn't call him Dad, not in this building. This is where relationships get translated into roles. The clerk leaned closer to her monitor like she'd found a thread. Clerk. There are multiple entries with those names. Me. The one from 2008? Clerk. Division? Me. Guardianship and support, I think. Saying it out loud felt like a public confession I'd avoided for years. My dad tried to erase me yesterday and I was asking the system to answer back. Clerk. We can print public docket lines and non-sealed orders. Clerk. Sealed documents stay sealed unless a judge orders otherwise. Me. I understand. She slid a form under the glass. Request for copies / certified copies. Boxes, lines. How check marks, my favorite kind of language. Clerk. Fill this out and specify what you want. Me. Anything labeled order, judgment, or findings that's public. Clerk. If it's public, we'll pull it. Me. Certified copies too. I filled the form with my blue pen, pressing hard enough to leave a groove. Under case number, I wrote what I had. County clerk, case number 2024-17823, and circled partial. It wasn't perfect, but it was a hook in the door. Clerk. There's a fee. Me. That's fine. Truth always costs something, even when it's yours. She slid a laminated fee sheet over, then the card machine. The machine beeped, and the sound felt like permission. I tucked the receipt into my folder like a nail in a coffin. Clerk. Have a seat. Son will call you. Me. How long? Clerk. Depends on the archive poll. I walked back into the sea of chairs, and space felt tighter now, like everyone was waiting for the same verdict in different languages. I held my folder on my lap and kept my fingers curled around the edge. A man 2 seats over bounced his knee so hard the chair squeaked. Across from me, a woman whispered to her lawyer, voice shaking. The lawyer nodded like he'd heard it all before. I stared at the ticket screen and pictured my dad's smile. He thought he could declare me unreal, like a toast could rewrite a birth. He forgot I live in systems too. If someone wants to erase you, let them talk. Then let the paperwork answer. That line settled in me like steel. The loudspeaker crackled again. B214, window 4. I stood so fast my folder almost slid. At window 4, a different clerk slid a small stack of pages under the glass. Thicker paper, official margins, stamps that looked like bruises. I could smell ink and old storage, like boxes in a basement. Clerk 2. These are the public docket entries and available orders. Clerk 2. Some pages are redacted. Me. That's fine. He pointed with a pen tip, careful. Clerk 2. This one is a judgment. Clerk 2. This is an order on support. Space narrowed until it was just me and the paper. Touch became everything, my fingertips warming the corners. Clerk 2. Sign here for certified copies. I signed, and my signature looked calm, almost pretty. He stamped the certification page with a loud thunk. Stamped, neutral, devastating. I slid the pages into my folder and pressed them flat with my palm. A simple movement, but it felt like claiming territory. Then I saw it, my dad's name printed in the caption line, not Dad. Marcus Mitchell, petitioner. A role he chose when it served him. I walked out with the crowd still waiting behind me, still trapped in their numbers. The hallway opened wide and cold, and my steps sounded louder. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was asking to belong. I felt like I was holding the answer. Outside the courthouse, the air hit me like a hot palm. Not warm, not friendly. Texas heat, thick and blunt, pressing into my skin through my shirt. Inside, the building had been cold enough to make everyone quiet. Out here, the temperature made everything louder. Car horns, footsteps, my own breathing. The certified pages warmed fast in my folder, like the paper was absorbing sun. And I gripped the manila edge and felt it soften slightly at the corners. Heat changes texture. Heat changes decisions. I walked across the plaza toward the garage and the concrete radiated up. My sneakers stuck for a half second with each step, tacky from the day. Sweat slid down my back, slow and unavoidable. My phone buzzed again. I didn't check it right away. I wanted the first thing I read to be the file, not my dad. In the garage elevator, stale air clung to me. A man in a suit fanned himself with a folded citation. A woman dabbed her forehead with a tissue like she'd been running. When the doors opened on my level, the heat of the garage felt trapped, cooked in. My car door handle burned my fingertips when I grabbed it. I hissed once, quiet, then forced my hand to stay. Pain is information. It told me I was awake. I sat in the driver's seat and let the AC blast, but it took time to win. The vents breathed out air that was only slightly cooler at first, like a tired promise. I pulled the folder onto my lap and opened it like it was a living thing. The paper edges were crisp, but the stack felt heavier than it should. Certified copies always do. They carry the weight of a system saying, "This happened." I flipped to the first page. The docket printout, plain and unforgiving. Dates lined up in a column like a timeline of choices. 2008. Hearing. Motion. Order. Judgment. The second page had black redaction bars, thick and glossy. Even the redactions felt like proof. Someone had fought to keep parts of this hidden. My fingers hovered over the line labeled judgment. The word looked ordinary, like it belonged on a parking ticket. But it had ended arguments in a courtroom I never got to see. I started reading the way you read something dangerous, slow, exact, no skipping. The caption line made my throat go tight again. In the interest of Brianna Torres Mitchell, a child. I stared at the middle name like it was a door. Torres, my mom's name. The one Dad pretended didn't matter. On the next line, in clean font, was his full name. Not a nickname, not Dad. Marcus D. Mitchell. And under it, a word that turned my stomach. Petitioner. The man who grilled ribs and tapped a cup had walked into court asking for something about me. I kept turning pages, and the car interior cooled in layers. The AC finally pushed the heat back from my face. But the file itself stayed hot, like it came with its own temperature. The legal language was colder than ice. Respondent. Relief requested. Findings of fact. I reached the first order that wasn't sealed. A stamped page with a judge's signature line at the bottom. The stamp ink looked slightly raised, like it had bitten into the paper. Then I saw the sentence that rewired my bones. The court finds that respondent has, by clear and convincing evidence, demonstrated abandonment and failure to provide support. I read it 3 times because my brain tried to reject it. Abandonment wasn't a vibe, it was a finding. My dad had called me dramatic for years. A judge had called him something else, without emotion, without volume. And it sat there in black and white. Heat swelled behind my eyes, but I didn't let it spill. I pressed my thumb to the paper until it left a faint oil mark. Touch is real when words try to float away. Another line followed. The court denies petitioner's request to terminate obligations as contrary to the best interest of the child. Terminate obligations. Not protecting me, not doing his best, trying to erase responsibility. My stomach turned in a slow, sick roll. I remembered him telling people he paid for everything. I remembered him acting like my mom was greedy for wanting child support. This wasn't gossip. This was a denial. I flipped again, faster now because the heat in my chest needed a map. There was a section labeled History, and the dates hit like a series of slaps. Petitioner failed to appear. Petitioner requested continuance. Petitioner provided inconsistent statements. Inconsistent statements. That's court speak for lies that don't match under oath. A laugh escaped me, small and sharp. Not funny. And just the body releasing pressure. My phone buzzed again, more insistent. This time I looked. Dad. You think you can embarrass me? Dad. You think some clerk paper makes you important? Dad. Come back to the house, now. He wanted heat. He wanted urgency. He wanted me to drive back and explode. I locked the screen again and stared at the file. Receipts don't argue. Receipts don't panic. Receipts wait. I kept reading, and the temperature in the car became a background hum. The file was the real climate now. Cold facts, hot consequences. I found the support order, and my jaw tightened. Numbers, monthly amounts, arrears, a column of money my mom had been stretched around for years. There was a line about wage withholding, another about non-compliance, and then like a knife laid flat, the phrase, failure to cooperate. I pictured my mom in the old apartment counting crumpled bills on the kitchen table. I pictured her taking me to Walmart late at night because it was cheaper. I pictured her saving receipts in a shoebox, like they were armor. All that time, he'd been telling the family he handled it. He'd been telling me I was ungrateful. And the court had been documenting the truth while we were sweating in silence. The next page was partially redacted, but one paragraph stayed clear. Petitioner acknowledged paternity in writing and affirmed intent to assume parental responsibilities. My throat went dry. Acknowledged. In writing. He chose fatherhood. Not because blood demanded it, because a pen did. I stared at that line until my eyes burned. The AC dried my skin, but the heat under my ribs stayed. Bet he had signed something. He had affirmed intent. Then he stood at a BBQ and said, "Not real," like none of it mattered. I flipped to the certification page. The clerk's stamp, the seal number, a small official circle pressed into paper. Neutral, factual, a fingerprint from the government. I pulled the blue pen from my bag and started underlining. Not messy, not frantic, clean marks, straight lines. I tabbed abandonment. I tabbed acknowledged paternity. I tabbed denied termination. Each sticky tab felt like a door I could open later in front of witnesses. Each one was a quiet threat. The temperature outside the windshield shimmered, making the street look liquid. A man walked past my car, wiping sweat from his neck. Life kept moving like my family wasn't collapsing. My phone buzzed again. Mom this time. But Mom, where are you? Mom, is it bad? Mom, please be careful. I typed one sentence and erased it twice. Then I sent the truth in the smallest possible form. Me. It's stamped. Me. He chose it. Me. And he lost. A minute later, 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Mom didn't answer. I understood. She was probably sitting in our kitchen smelling smoke, holding her own breath. I leaned my head back against the headrest and let the cold air hit my face. My skin felt chilled, but my hands were steady now. The temperature had done its job. It reminded me that environments can be controlled. So can narratives. I read the findings page again, slower, because I needed the exact language for later. The judge didn't call him evil. The judge didn't call him a liar. The judge did something worse. But the judge described his actions like weather, like a pattern. Failed. Did not appear. Inconsistent. Denied. If my dad wanted to rewrite my identity, he'd have to fight those verbs. And he couldn't. They were already recorded. I thought about the BBQ crowd. Aunt Denise's face, Uncle Ray's awkward laugh, Tessa's perfume floating over smoke. They didn't know what abandonment looked like on paper. They only knew what my dad looked like holding tongs. I could change that. A reflective line slid through me, calm and brutal. Family is what people claim in public. Parenthood is what they sign in court. Another one followed, quieter. If he needed me unreal, it meant I was powerful enough to threaten him. I reached into my bag and found the tiny notary card I keep for work, a cheap business tool. Yeah, but seeing the word notary public reminded me, systems exist for a reason. I opened my notes app and started writing a list, the way my brain calms itself. Scan and save PDFs. Back up to 2 places. Text Dad. We will speak with witnesses. Schedule consult with family attorney. Decide the room for the reveal. I stopped on that last one and stared out at the heat rippling over the road. I didn't want revenge online. I wanted it in the same kind of room he'd used. A room full of relatives. A room full of people who believed him because he sounded confident. A room where a stamped page could do what my voice never could. My phone buzzed again, and my stomach stayed calm. It was Tessa. Tessa. Brianna, don't do anything you can't undo. Tessa. Your dad is upset. Tessa. Let's talk like adults. Adults. Dull, like she hadn't been the one smiling at my erasure. I didn't answer. I took a picture of the acknowledged paternity line with today's newspaper app open in the corner of the frame. Date visible. A small habit from living with someone who rewrites history. Then I drove. The AC fought the heat while the city blurred past in sun haze. Every red light gave me a second to think. Every green light felt like permission to keep going. At home, my apartment hallway was warm and stale, like the building couldn't afford cold. I unlocked my door and the hinge squeaked, familiar and safe. Inside, I spread the papers on my kitchen table like a crime scene map. The room temperature was steady, controlled. But my body still remembered that courthouse chill and that parking garage burn. Cold to keep you compliant, heat to push you reactive. That I wasn't either anymore. I opened my laptop and started scanning each page, careful with alignment. The scanner lid pressed down with a firm, even weight. I liked that pressure. One by one, the PDF files saved with clean names. 2008 _order _support certified.pdf. 2008 findings abandonment.pdf. 2008 ac paternity line.pdf. When the final file saved, I sat back and let the AC vent blow across my knuckles. Cool air, cool mind. Then I heard it in my memory, sharp as ever. Fork on cup, clink. It didn't spike me now. It told me the next move. Because the file didn't just prove he lied. It proved he planned to, and the next time I faced him, I wasn't bringing emotion. I was bringing his own signature. Because the file didn't just prove he lied, it proved he planned to. And the next time I faced him, I wasn't bringing emotion. But I was bringing his own signature. The scanner lid had left faint ridges on my fingertips, like I'd been gripping the truth too hard. The paper on my table felt slick in places, dry in others, and every texture kept pulling me back to one point. Dad's fork. His cup. That bright clink. I slid each certified page into a clear plastic sleeve, one by one. The sleeves crackled as they opened, and the sound felt like a warning label. Plastic doesn't absorb tears. Plastic doesn't smudge ink. Plastic is what you use when you plan to survive a storm. I taped the sleeves into a slim binder from my desk drawer, the cheap kind with a snapped spine. The spine clicked shut with a sharp little bite, and I liked that it locked. Then I grabbed my Walmart receipt shoebox from under the sink, the one my friends joked about, and I dumped it out on the counter, and paper fluttered like dry leaves. Starbucks cup stickers, DMV renewal slips, a crumpled apartment lease addendum, old HOA notices from a complex I didn't even live in anymore. All of it was proof of one thing. I existed in systems. I existed in writing. My phone lit up again, glare skating across the screen until I tilted it. It was Dad calling. I let it ring until voicemail. My hand stayed busy while his ringtone tried to hook my nerves. I wrapped a rubber band around the binder, tight enough that it left a line in the plastic. Control in my fingers, control in my breath. Another call, then another, then a text. Dad. Bring those papers to me. Dad. You don't understand what you're looking at. Dad. We can handle this like family. Like family. But that phrase tasted like overcooked meat and smoke in my hair. It also did something else. It reminded me of every tradition he'd used as a leash. The annual July 4th BBQ, even when it wasn't July 4th. The Christmas lights he demanded we hang exactly the same way, like symmetry was love. The Thanksgiving table where he made everyone say what they were grateful for, then mocked the answers. Tradition wasn't warmth in our house. Tradition was control with a bow on it. I opened my calendar app and tapped the next date marked Family Dinner, Denise. It was already there for Saturday, because Aunt Denise hosted every second weekend like clockwork. Dad never missed Denise's dinners. He liked the optics. He liked sitting at her table like the family's final judge. And I typed a note under the event. Bring binder. Then I did something small that changed everything. I opened a new contact in my phone and typed, Attorney Consult. I didn't have a lawyer yet, but I liked seeing the label, like a door that existed even before you turn the knob. I checked my bank app, made sure my debit card could handle fees. Then I opened my credit freeze settings and confirmed my identity monitoring was still on. Dad had said, that can be fixed. I didn't love him enough to ignore that warning anymore. I drove to the UPS store because I wanted hard backups. The door handle was cool and smooth, and the bell over the door made a thin little jingle that felt too cheerful. Inside, the air smelled like cardboard and tape. A rack of bubble mailers hung like pale skins. Yet the clerk behind the counter had ink-stained fingers and a bored face. He asked what I needed without looking up. Me. 2 certified copies scanned to a USB. Clerk. We can scan. Certified copies you keep. Me. I know. I laid the binder down on the counter, and the plastic sleeves squeaked under his hands. He glanced at the seal marks, and finally looked at me like I was more than a customer. Clerk. Family court? Me. Yeah. He didn't ask more. He just scanned. Page after page. The machine pulling paper with a soft suction sound. Suction, pull, click, save. Texture again. The rough edge of the manila folder. The slick face of the sleeve. The ridged grip of the USB cap. By the time he handed me the drive, my thumb had a shallow dent from pressing too hard. I didn't mind. Back in my car, I made 2 more backups, one to cloud, one to my laptop. Then I texted Aunt Denise, me. I need you Saturday, no surprises, please. Aunt Denise, baby, are you okay? Me, I'm not coming to be comforted. I'm coming to be witnessed. 3 dots. Then her reply. Aunt Denise. Bring whatever you need, my house stays open. I stared at that line until my chest loosened. Not relief, not softness. Permission. I texted Uncle Ray next. Me. If Dad asks you to meet alone, don't. Uncle Ray, what's going on? Me. Paper. Uncle Ray. Say less, I'm there. Then I sent one to Jada. Me. I'm doing it at Denise's. Jada. Good. Jada. He'll show. Me. I want him to. My phone buzzed immediately after, like he could smell plans. Dad. You coming back today or what? Dad. Don't make me come to your place. The word place did what his BBQ sentence couldn't. It made my skin crawl. Because he knew my address. He knew my routine. He knew the kind of locks my building used, the cheap ones that stick when it's humid. He'd helped me move in. He'd carried my couch like it made him a hero. And he'd kept a spare key once. For emergencies, he said. I walked straight to my door and checked the deadbolt twice, feeling the metal throw slide into place. The knob was warm from my palm, and the texture of the brushed steel felt rougher than it used to. I didn't have proof he still had the key, so I acted like I did. That afternoon, I went to Home Depot and bought a new lock. The packaging was stiff plastic that fought my fingers, like it didn't want to open. I liked that fight. At the self-checkout, then the machine beeped and asked me to place item in bagging area. I placed it hard enough to make the plastic bag crinkle like a threat. In the parking lot, I sat in my car and watched my hands shake once, tiny and quick. Then they went still again. I wasn't scared of him yelling. I was scared of him rewriting me in more than words. Back upstairs, I swapped the lock, the screws scraping against metal as I turned them. Each twist rasped through my wrist, a gritty sound that felt like safety. When I tested the new key, it slid in smooth. Click, turn, done. I didn't tell Mom yet. I didn't want her panicking in that kitchen. Instead, I sent her a photo of one page only, the cleanest line, cropped tight. Petitioner acknowledged paternity in writing and affirmed intent to assume parental responsibilities. No caption, no drama. Adjust the sentence. She replied a minute later. Mom, he never thought you'd see that. Me. I did. Mom. What are you going to do? Me. Not meet him alone. Another text came in. Unknown number again. Unknown. Tessa is telling people you're not legally family. Unknown. She's pushing a new will story. Unknown. Watch Saturday. I didn't ask who it was. I already knew the tone. It was Aunt Cheryl, the one who loved gossip but loved documents more. The family's unofficial archivist. She liked keeping tradition clean. She hated when it was used to dirty someone. I added her to the invite quietly. I didn't announce it. I just sent the address and time like it was normal. Because tradition works both ways. If Dad wanted to perform at family gatherings, I could use a gathering too, but mine wouldn't be a stage. As mine would be a table. Saturday arrived with cold air blasting from my vent and my binder heavy in my tote. The binder edges rubbed against the fabric, creating a steady, rough drag that kept me present. In Aunt Denise's driveway, I sat for a second and watched people move through her kitchen window. Warm yellow light, hands passing dishes. A normal scene. My chest tightened anyway. I could already feel Dad's voice trying to fill the room, like smoke. I could already smell that charcoal memory on my own hair, even though Denise was making baked chicken. That's what trauma does. It brings yesterday into today and calls it tradition. I got out and the gravel under my shoes crunched sharp. The sound made my spine straighten. Inside, Denise's house smelled like butter, garlic, and lemon pepper. The texture of her welcome mat scratched my soles as if it was checking me in. Her dining table was set with cloth placemats, thick and woven, not the flimsy paper kind Dad used. The fabric caught on my fingertips when I brushed it, grounding me. Aunt Denise met me in the hallway and hugged me once, firm and quick. Her sweater was soft against my cheek, and that softness almost cracked me. Aunt Denise. You sure? Me. I'm sure. She led me to the dining room and pointed to a spot on the table like she was placing evidence. I set the binder down, and the plastic sleeves made a quiet squeal against the wood. Jada was already there, sitting straight, phone face down, but ready. Uncle Ray leaned on the counter, arms crossed, jaw tight. Aunt Cheryl sat at the far end with reading glasses perched on her nose, as a legal pad in front of her like she was about to take minutes. Tradition. Upgraded. Then the front door opened and closed, and the hallway filled with the sound of heavy footsteps. Leather belt creak. Keys clink. Dad. He walked in like he owned the air. He looked around, taking inventory. His gaze stopped at the binder on the table. The plastic sleeve edges caught the light, glossy and unforgiving. He swallowed once, quick, and masked it with a smile. Dad. So this is what we're doing? Me. Yes. Tessa's heels clicked behind him, sharp on Denise's tile. She wore a cream dress like she'd dressed for court, and her perfume hit the room fast, slick as oil. Tessa. Brianna, this is inappropriate. Me. So was your backyard speech. Dad tried to laugh, but it came out rough. He stepped closer to the table, sighed and his fingers brushed the binder spine. He flinched at the texture, like the plastic bite was real. Dad. Give me that. Me. No. His eyes snapped up to mine, and for the first time since the BBQ, I saw it. Not confidence. Calculation. Dad. We can talk outside. Me. Not alone. He glanced at Aunt Denise, at Uncle Ray, at Aunt Cheryl's pen poised over paper. He realized all at once that tradition had turned on him, and then his phone buzzed in his pocket, and he looked down like he was checking for backup. The room didn't wait. Aunt Cheryl. Marcus, sit. Dad. Excuse me? Aunt Cheryl. Sit down. Aunt Cheryl. We're not doing another performance. Dad's jaw tightened, and the skin over his cheekbone jumped. He looked at me again, and his voice dropped low the way it used to in our hallway. And Dad, you're going to regret this. I rested my fingertips on the binder cover and felt the rough edge of the plastic sleeve beneath it. The texture was my reminder. Control lives in your hands before it lives in your mouth. Me. I already have the receipts. Me. Now I'm just opening them. Me. I already have the receipts. Me. Now I'm just opening them. Aunt Denise's Bluetooth speaker sat on the counter, pulsing soft blue. Old R&B floated through the room, low and warm, like it wanted peace. The bass thumped gently against the cabinets, steady as a heartbeat. Dad didn't sit. He hovered at the table edge, hand flexing, eyes on my binder. Tessa stayed behind his shoulder, Perfume slick, smile thin. Aunt Cheryl clicked her pen once, sharp and impatient. The music kept playing anyway, a song about love and loyalty. I almost laughed at the irony, but I didn't waste breath. Aunt Denise, Marcus, you heard Cheryl. Dad, I'm not a child. Uncle Ray. Then stop acting like you can snatch papers. Dad's nostrils flared, and the muscles in his jaw tightened. He looked around the room like he was counting who still belonged to him. His eyes landed on Jada's phone, face down, but ready. Dad. Everybody recording now? Jada. Only the parts you rewrite later. Tessa. This is insane. The speaker shifted to the next track, a brighter beat. The chorus climbed, too cheerful for the air in this house. Aunt Denise reached over and turned the volume down without looking at him. The room didn't need more sound. It needed less of his. Dad finally pulled out a chair with a harsh scrape. Wood on tile, a loud complaint. He sat like it was temporary, like he planned to stand and end this. Tessa stayed standing, arms folded tight. She glanced at Aunt Cheryl's legal pad like it offended her. Aunt Cheryl didn't blink. Aunt Cheryl. Start from the beginning. Dad. Gladly. Dad. She's trying to blackmail me with old court junk. Me. It's not junk. Me. It's certified. I slid the binder toward the center of the table. The plastic sleeves squeaked against the wood, and the sound made Dad flinch again. The speaker hummed in the background, low and stubborn. Dad. You think a stamp makes you right? Me. A stamp makes it real. Me. That's why you hate it. He leaned forward, palms flat, trying to loom. The overhead light caught sweat along his hairline. Tessa touched his arm like she was trying to steer a car from the passenger seat. Tessa. Marcus, don't. Dad. No. I'll let her. Dad. Let her embarrass herself. Aunt Denise's fork tapped her plate once, not loud but final. The tiny clink made my skin tighten, and I hated that it did. Then I noticed something and let myself breathe. That wasn't his fork. That wasn't his cup. This wasn't his yard. The music softened into a slow groove, a guitar line sliding like honey. I placed my phone on the table, screen up, camera on. Sunlight from Denise's window hit it and flashed off the glass. Truth loves good lighting. Me. I'm going to read. Dad. Read what, your fantasy? Me. Read what you signed. I opened to the tab labeled Acknowledged Paternity. The paper lifted with a dry rasp, and the sound felt like a page turning in a courtroom. I kept my voice even, calm enough to cut. At me. Quote. Me. Petitioner acknowledged paternity in writing and affirmed intent to assume parental responsibilities. The music kept playing, but the room changed. Even the beat felt farther away. Uncle Ray's eyebrows rose, slow and heavy. Uncle Ray. You signed? Dad. That's not what it... Aunt Cheryl. Answer the question. Dad's eyes snapped to Aunt Cheryl, surprised by the spine. Tessa's lips parted like she wanted to jump in, then she didn't. Aunt Denise's hand pressed flat on the tablecloth, fingers splayed. Dad. I signed what they put in front of me. Me. You affirmed intent. Me. That's not an accident. Aunt Cheryl leaned forward, glasses catching the light. Aunt Cheryl. Let me see that page. I slid it to her, and she read with her finger tracking each line. The speaker hit a little drum fill, playful, and nobody moved with it. Aunt Cheryl's face tightened, like the words tasted bad. Aunt Cheryl. This says writing. Aunt Cheryl. Not a handshake. Aunt Cheryl. Not a vibe. Aunt Cheryl. Writing. Dad's fingers twitched, like he wanted to snatch it and chew it. He didn't, because too many eyes were on him. The room had turned into the kind of audience he couldn't charm. Me. Next tab. I flipped to abandonment, and the sleeve crackled louder. Tessa made a sharp inhale, quick and annoyed. Tessa. This is disgusting. Me. You should have told him that on Sunday. The music shifted again, a slower song with a sad piano. It sounded like a warning you can dance to. I read the line I'd underlined, word for word. Me. The court finds, by clear and convincing evidence, an abandonment and failure to provide support. Aunt Denise's mouth opened slightly, then closed. Her eyes went wet, but she didn't look away. Uncle Ray's chair creaked as he leaned back, like the air got heavier. Dad. That's twisted. Dad. Her mother. Aunt Denise. Don't say her name like that. The speaker's piano kept going, gentle and relentless. It reminded me of the old apartment's wall clock, steady and cold. I felt the napkin twist memory in my fingers, even without a napkin. Me. Keep going. Me. The court denies petitioner's request to terminate obligations as contrary to the best interest of the child. Tessa's face went bright, then tight. She looked at Dad like he'd failed her privately. Dad stared at the paper like it was a new language. Dad. That's from years ago. Me. So is your lie. Me. But you served it fresh. Aunt Cheryl's pen started moving on her pad, quick strokes. She wasn't writing feelings, she was writing a record. Aunt Cheryl. You tried to terminate. Aunt Cheryl. So you wouldn't pay. Aunt Cheryl. And now you're calling her not real. Dad's voice lifted, louder, climbing for control. Dad. I raised her. Dad. I let her use my name. Dad. I gave her everything. The music swelled at the chorus, the singer pleading. It felt like mockery. Jada reached over and turned the speaker even lower. Jada. Nobody wants your soundtrack. Dad. Shut up, Jada. Uncle Ray stood, slow, shoulders broad. The chair legs scraped tile, a low growl. He didn't yell. He didn't need to. That's Uncle Ray. Don't talk to her like that. Uncle Ray. You're in Denise's house. Dad looked at the ceiling like he was asking God for backup. Tessa touched his back, whispering something I couldn't hear. He shook her off like she was inconvenient. Me. You said I wasn't your real daughter. Me. Explain why you only say that when money's involved. Dad's eyes flashed. Dad. Because it matters. Me. To who? Dad. To my future. There it was again. Not love, not truth. Future, like property. Aunt Denise. Marcus, is this about the house? Dad. It's about fairness. Aunt Denise. Fairness doesn't start at a BBQ. The music kept a soft rhythm, like it refused to leave. I watched Dad's fingers drum on the table, angry, offbeat. He couldn't match the rhythm because his story didn't have one. I slid the support order forward. Yeah, the tab marked numbers. The page showed columns, amounts, dates, arrears. The ink looked blunt, like it was tired of being polite. Me. Here are the amounts. Me. Here is wage withholding. Me. Here is non-compliance. Dad. You don't know what your mother did. Me. I know what you didn't do. Me. The court wrote it down. Aunt Cheryl lifted her eyes over her glasses. Aunt Cheryl. Marcus, why did you say it's Sunday? Aunt Cheryl. Why now? Tessa answered too fast, voice sharp. Tessa. Because she's manipulating the family. Tessa. Because she wants a claim. I turned my head slowly toward Tessa. Her heels were planted like stakes. Her voice had that polished confidence of someone who never thinks she'll be challenged. That me. A claim on what? Tessa. On everything. Me. Say it plain. Tessa. On the house. The word landed and didn't bounce. It sat on the table between the placemats like a dead thing. The music's piano line kept going, calm and cruel. Aunt Denise's eyes narrowed. Aunt Denise. My brother, did you tell her that? Dad. Don't twist. Aunt Denise. Did you? Dad didn't answer right away. Silence wasn't dramatic here. Silence was evidence. Dad. I told her we need to protect what's ours. Uncle Ray. Ours? Dad. Mine. He corrected himself like a man yanking a mask back on. Tessa's face hardened, and her perfume felt sharper, almost sour. The room's loyalty shifted without a single raised voice. People believe a confident man until a document shows his handwriting, then confidence looks like a costume. And I spent years trying to earn love he filed against me. That wasn't childhood. That was training. Aunt Cheryl tapped her pad with her pen, once. Aunt Cheryl. So you chose fatherhood. Aunt Cheryl. Then you tried to terminate. Aunt Cheryl. Then you announced she isn't real. Dad's face reddened, sweat shining at his temples. He pushed his chair back and the legs screeched. The music kept playing, but now it sounded like a countdown. Dad. You think you're winning? Me. I'm not winning. Me. I'm correcting the record. Tessa stepped forward, voice low, meant to sting. Tessa. You'll never be blood. I didn't even blink. Me. Blood isn't the only thing that counts. Me. Signatures count. Me. Judges count. Me. And today, witnesses count. Uncle Ray exhaled hard through his nose like he'd been holding it. Aunt Denise reached for my hand, then stopped, respecting my space. Jada's phone buzzed, and she ignored it. Dad looked around again, desperate now, searching for someone to rescue his image. No one moved. The music's final chord faded, and the speaker rolled into silence on its own. In that quiet, Dad's voice sounded smaller. Dad, you don't know what you're doing. Me. I do. Me. Next, I'm going to ask you one question. I flipped to the last tab, the one I hadn't shown yet. It was labeled Hearing Notes, in my own handwriting. Dad's eyes dropped to it, and for the first time he went pale. Dad's eyes dropped to it, and for the first time he went pale. The tab on the sleeve read, Hearing Notes in my handwriting. I watched his eyes stick on that label like it was a bruise, not red, not angry, pale. But like the light had moved and his shadow finally showed. He reached for the binder again, slower this time. His fingertips hovered over the plastic like it burned. Tessa's hand snapped onto his wrist, nails digging in. Tessa. Marcus, stop. Dad. Let go. Tessa. Not in front of them. That whisper wasn't about me. It was about witnesses. Aunt Cheryl's pen paused in midair. The ceiling light caught the ink tip and made it shine. Uncle Ray's shadow stretched across the floor, thick and protective. I slid the binder an inch back toward me. The sleeve edges caught the overhead light and flashed like a warning sign. Dad's eyes followed the movement like a hungry dog. Me. One question. Dad. No. Me. Yes. Me. Why did the judge write credible fear? The room shifted, not with noise, with weight. Aunt Denise's curtains were half closed, and the late afternoon sun sliced in at an angle. It threw lines across the table like bars. Dad's face fell into shadow between them, striped and trapped. Dad. That's not what it says. Me. It is. Me. And it's public enough that I'm holding it. I lifted the page, careful, like you lift a knife by the handle. The paper cast a small shadow on the tablecloth. I watched Dad's eyes track that shadow before he looked up at me. Me. The judge noted your behavior in the hallway. Me. The judge wrote you were volatile and intimidating. Me. And the judge wrote Mom had credible fear. Mom. Not your mother. Not Marisol. Mom. Aunt Denise made a sound like her throat closed. Aunt Denise. Marcus, what did you do? Dad. I didn't do anything. Aunt Cheryl. Then why is it in a court note? Tessa's perfume felt sharper now, like it had turned sour in the air. She stepped forward, smile pasted on. Her shadow fell across my binder like she wanted to cover it. Tessa. Those notes can be misunderstood. Me. No. Me. They can be read. I held the page steady and felt my fingers stop shaking. I didn't enjoy this. I didn't hate it either. I felt free. Dad shoved his chair back again, and this time it slammed into the wall. The sound snapped through the room like a door kicked open. His shadow jumped on the tile, huge and jagged. Dad. You're twisting old paperwork to make me a monster. Me. You made yourself a risk. Me. The judge just wrote it down. A reflective line settled in my chest, quiet and clean. Oh, when someone tells the truth, they don't fear records. They fear consequences. Dad's voice climbed, hunting the ceiling. Dad. Everybody's always against me. Uncle Ray. You did that to yourself, Dad. You don't know what she's like in private. He pointed at me, fingers shaking. The finger's shadow hit my sleeve, a dark smear on plastic. I stared at it like it was a child's tantrum. Me. You announced me in public. Me. So we're staying public? Aunt Cheryl tilted her legal pad toward him. Aunt Cheryl. You filed as petitioner. Aunt Cheryl. You acknowledged paternity in writing. Aunt Cheryl. You tried to terminate obligations. Aunt Cheryl. And now you're acting shocked we can read. Dad's mouth opened and closed once. His eyes moved from face to face, searching for a soft spot. He found none. Tessa tried again, a voice smoother, almost pleading. Tessa. Brianna, honey. Me. Don't call me that. Me. Not after Sunday. Her smile cracked. For the first time, her tone turned hard without the sugar. Tessa. You're doing this because you want something. Me. I want the truth. Tessa. No. Tessa. You want the house. I didn't look at her. I looked at Dad. Me. Tell them about the deed. Dad. It's my property. Me. Tell them what you told her. Dad. I didn't. Aunt Denise. Marcus. Denise's voice had that older sister edge, the one that doesn't ask twice. Dad's shoulders stiffened like he'd been caught by someone who knew his childhood. Dad. Fine. Dad. Tessa thinks it's smart to clean things up. Dad. She thinks my will should reflect reality. The word reality landed like an insult. Like he was still trying to make me imaginary. Aunt Denise's shadow leaned over the table as she stood. Her body blocked the window light, and the room dimmed for a second. Her silhouette looked like a wall. Aunt Denise. Reality is you raised her. Aunt Denise. Reality is you signed. Aunt Denise. Reality is you tried to run from support. Aunt Denise. So don't say reality like you own it. Dad's face flushed again. Heat rose from him, but the room stayed cold. The air felt like it had boundaries now. He turned his anger toward Tessa, quick and ugly. Dad. I told you to stay out of it. Tessa. You told me you'd handle it. Dad. I did. Tessa. You humiliated her at a BBQ. That line surprised me. It was the first time Tessa admitted it was humiliation. Her shadow fell across Dad's shoulder like a stain. Said Dad. You wanted her out, Tessa. I wanted the paperwork clean. Dad. Same thing. Aunt Cheryl wrote faster, pen scratching like a tiny saw. Jada's phone screen lit for a second, then dimmed, a small rectangle of light cutting through shadow. I saw the reflection of my own face in it, steady. Dad caught the movement and snapped. Dad, stop recording. Jada, stop threatening people. Dad, I'm not threatening. Uncle Ray stepped closer, and his shadow swallowed Dad's feet. Uncle Ray, your voice is a threat, Marcus. Uncle Ray, you don't have to swing to scare people. Dad's eyes flicked to the front door like an exit. Then he looked at me and tried a different mask. The soft one, the father one. Dad. Bree, come on. Dad. You know I love you. Dad. You know I'd do anything for you. I watched him say it like it was a script. And I watched him lean into the light where he looked better. And I felt nothing but clarity. Me. If you loved me, you wouldn't need a crowd to erase me. Me. Love doesn't need witnesses. Me. Control does. Dad's face twisted. Dad. You're just like your mother. Me. Good. Me. She survived you. Tessa's phone buzzed in her hand, and the light from the screen lit her chin ghost white. She glanced down, then up, and her eyes went sharp. Tessa. Marcus, we need to leave. Dad. No. Tessa. Now. Dad. Not until she gives me that binder. Aunt Denise moved between him and the table without thinking. Her shadow covered my hands like a shield. Dad stopped short, shocked by the block. Dad. Get out of my way. Aunt Denise. This is my house. Aunt Denise. And you are not taking anything. Dad laughed, short and ugly. Yeah, Dad. You think she owns those papers? Dad. Those are my records. Me. They're certified copies. Me. They belong to the truth. Me. And I have backups. Dad's eyes reacted like I'd flashed a weapon. Dad. You think you're smart. Me. I think you're scared. He leaned forward, voice lower, like he wanted to crawl under the room's protection. Dad. You keep pushing this and I'll sue you. Dad. Defamation. Dad. Harassment. Dad. Whatever it takes. Aunt Cheryl snorted once, not amused. Aunt Cheryl. You can't defame a court record, Marcus. Aunt Cheryl. The court already said what it said. He tried another angle. Dad. Fine. Dad. I'll call the police and tell them she stole my documents. I felt the shadows on the wall from the window blinds. They looked like tally marks, counting his choices. Me. Call them. Dad. Don't test me. Me, please. Me. Call them. Jada lifted her phone and set it on the table, screen glowing. Jada. Say it again on camera. Dad. Put that away. Tessa grabbed his arm harder now and pulled. Her heel clicked on tile, sharp like a gavel. Dad yanked free, furious. Dad. You all are falling for her act. Uncle Ray. What act? Uncle Ray. She's reading. Dad reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded paper. A letter. He slapped it on the table, and the paper made a dry smack. The letter cast a little shadow across my binder, overlapping like a stain. Tessa's hand flew to her mouth. Too late. Dad. Here. Dad. Since you like paperwork. Dad. This is my cease and desist. The paper looked crisp, expensive, professionally formatted. Aunt Cheryl leaned in, and her shadow fell over the page. Aunt Cheryl. Who wrote this? Dad. My lawyer. Aunt Cheryl. Which lawyer? Aunt Cheryl's voice stayed flat, like she was reading minutes in a meeting. Aunt Cheryl. Give me the bar number. Dad. You don't need that. Aunt Cheryl. If it's real, you'll have it. Tessa's shadow trembled on the table as she shifted her weight. She wasn't used to being asked for specifics. She was used to winning with tone. Dad tried to stand, but Uncle Ray's hand landed on the chair back. Not a shove. A stop. Uncle Ray. Sit. Dad. Get off me. Uncle Ray. I'm not touching you. Uncle Ray. I'm keeping you from doing something stupid. I watched Dad's eyes flick to the hallway again. Exit. Control. Reset. At me. You're not getting my binder. Dad. Then I'll change my will tonight. Me. You already tried to change your obligations. Me. The court denied you. Aunt Denise reached up and turned on the lamp over the sideboard. The shade threw a warm pool of light across the plates. Dad's face stayed half in shadow, like the room refused to flatter him. Aunt Denise. Marcus, you're done here. Dad. You can't kick me out. Aunt Denise. Watch me. Tessa. This is family. Aunt Denise. Family doesn't erase children in public. I breathed in slow and felt the binder edge under my palm. Hard plastic, sharp corner, my control. Me. I'm not posting this. Me. I'm not making a TikTok. Me. I'm doing the boring thing. Me. I'm protecting my name. That was my moral pivot, and I meant it, because revenge isn't always a spotlight. Sometimes it's a locked door and a paper trail. Dad's voice dropped, almost gentle again. Dad. Bree, you'll lose everyone doing this. Me. No. Me. I'm just stopping you from using everyone. I opened my tote and pulled out a small yellow notary envelope. I didn't open it, I just let him see it. Dad's eyes narrowed. Dad. What's that? Me. A consult confirmation. Me. And a notarized copy request. Me. Things you don't like. Tessa's phone lit again, and the screen glow cut her face into angles. She looked more like a stranger in that light. Less like a wife. More like a manager. Tessa. Marcus, we're wasting time. Dad. I'm not leaving until she hands it over. Me. You can't take it. Me. And you can't unsign what you signed. Dad's eyes darted. I slid the letter back toward him without touching it. At me. You can't scare me with paper you made up. Dad. I'm done with you. Dad. You're out. Tessa nodded fast, eager. Tessa. She's out. Tessa. She doesn't get the name. Tessa. She doesn't get anything. Me. You can't evict a daughter with a vibe. Aunt Denise. Marcus, you're the one leaving. Dad. This isn't over. Jada. Bree. Jada. He just filed something online. Jada. Probate court. Jada. Tonight. Because he wasn't just threatening anymore. He was moving paper. And paper moves fast when someone's desperate. And paper moves fast when someone's desperate. I didn't look at Dad when Jada said it. I looked at the binder under my hand. The plastic edge felt cool and hard, like a curb you can't sweet-talk. Aunt Cheryl's pen stopped mid-scratch. Uncle Ray's shadow stayed planted by the chair like a bouncer. And Tessa's perfume hung in the air, slick and stubborn. Me. What did he file? Jada flipped her phone toward me, screen glowing bright in Denise's warm lamplight. The glare bounced off the glass, forcing me to tilt it until the words snapped into focus. Probate court. E-file submitted. A timestamp. A case type. A petition title I didn't recognize yet. But I recognized the intent in the speed. Dad. Don't read her phone. Jada. Don't file at night like a thief. Dad pushed back from the table, finally standing. His chair legs screeched, and the sound scraped my nerves like sandpaper. He tried to reclaim the room with posture. Dad. I'm protecting my assets. Me. From who? Dad. From people who aren't family. Tessa nodded like she'd been waiting for that sentence. Her heels clicked once, sharp as a period. My Aunt Denise didn't move out of the doorway. Aunt Denise. Marcus, leave. Dad. This is between me and her. Aunt Denise. It became my business when you used my house. Dad's eyes locked on the binder again. He didn't want my tears anymore. He wanted my silence. Dad. You'll regret making enemies. Me. You made me your enemy at the BBQ. I stood, slow, keeping my hands visible. The chair beneath me rasped against the tile. I slid the binder into my tote, zipper teeth catching for a second before it closed. That tiny snag felt like a warning. So I tightened my grip and made it smooth. Me. I'm leaving. Dad. Good. Tessa. Finally. Uncle Ray stepped into my path, gentle. Uncle Ray. You want me to walk you out? Me. Please. Aunt Cheryl spoke without looking up from her pad. So Aunt Cheryl, email me scans. Me. Tonight. Aunt Cheryl. And send me his fake letter. Me. I won't touch it. Aunt Cheryl. Good, photo it. Dad scoffed like we were being dramatic. But his eyes were darting now, the way they do when a plan isn't landing, when he can't charm a stamp. In the hallway, Denise's family photos watched us pass. Warm frames, soft smiles, people who didn't know they were about to pick sides. My lungs pulled in Denise's lemon cleaner and roasted chicken again, steadying me. Outside, the night air felt thick, not smoky like Sunday, just heavy, humid, buzzing with distant traffic. Uncle Ray walked me to my car like a security detail. The gravel crunched under my shoes, sharp and honest. My phone buzzed the second my door shut. Dad, answer me. Dad, you're not dragging my name through court. Dad, come talk like an adult. Adult. Again. As if adults don't use attorneys, certified copies, and locks. I didn't answer. I opened my notes and wrote one sentence for myself, plain and brutal. If he moves paper, I move smarter paper. At home, I didn't take off my shoes. I went straight to my door and tested the lock twice, feeling the metal click deep. Then I checked the window latch with my fingertips. Cold glass. Cold certainty. My tote hit the table with a soft thud. I pulled out the binder and the USB. The USB cap had ridges, and I rolled it between my fingers until my breathing slowed. I opened my laptop and logged into my cloud storage. Two-factor prompt. Code. Confirm. Each step felt like building a wall brick by brick. Yet then I did the stuff nobody cheers for. I froze my credit with all 3 bureaus. I turned on IRS identity protection options. I checked my social security account login and reset the password to something Dad could never guess. He used to guess everything about me. My favorite candy, my middle school crush, my bank PIN once, when I was 19 and careless. I wasn't careless anymore. I opened my bank app and moved my savings into a new sub-account. Not because I expected him to hack me, because I expected him to try to pressure me into panic spending. Then I pulled out my lease and scanned it too. My address. My name. My right to exist without his permission. I saved it in a folder called Identity. Next, I called the non-emergency number for my city and asked a simple question. Not dramatic, not emotional, procedural. And me. If someone has an old spare key, can I document that concern? Dispatcher. You can request an incident report for harassment or threats. Me. Noted. Thank you. I didn't file a report that second. I just learned the pathway. Knowing the door exists changes your posture. Then I made the attorney call. The next morning, the phone in my hand felt warm from my palm. The receptionist's voice was calm, practiced. Receptionist. Family law and probate, how can we help? Me. I need a consult, today if possible. Receptionist. What's the issue? Me. A parent is making false public claims and filing probate-related petitions to cut me out. Receptionist. Do you have documentation? Me. Certified court copies. Silence, then a shift in tone. Not sympathy. Respect. So, receptionist. We can fit you in at 3:30. I took a screenshot of the appointment confirmation, then I forwarded it to Aunt Cheryl and Denise. Witnesses don't just watch, they help hold the timeline. At 3:30, I sat in a small office that smelled like paper and hand sanitizer. A framed diploma hung on a beige wall. No drama, just credentials. The attorney, Ms. Patel, read without reacting. Her finger traced the underlined lines. Her pen tapped once at acknowledged paternity. Ms. Patel. He legally assumed parental responsibilities. Ms. Patel. He can't rewrite that at a barbecue. Me. He's filing probate stuff. Ms. Patel. We'll check the docket and see what it is. She explained it like weather patterns. A petition is a move. A response is a counter-move. Evidence is a shield when someone tries to rush a judge, Ms. Patel. We can send a cease and desist for defamation and harassment, Ms. Patel. And we can preserve evidence, Ms. Patel. If he's trying to transfer property or change beneficiary designations, we can address that through proper channels. Me. Can I stop him? Ms. Patel. You can stop lies. You can slow bad faith. Ms. Patel. You can also protect yourself. She had me sign a retainer agreement. The pen felt smooth, almost too easy. I watched my signature form and thought about Dad's old signature on the court line. 2 signatures, 2 futures. We requested the probate filing details the same day. A public clerk portal, a docket printout, and a copy request. Not because I wanted his money, because I wanted him to stop using money as a weapon. That night, Ms. Patel emailed a draft letter. Real letterhead, real bar number, real consequences. It wasn't a threat, it was a boundary in legal ink. I printed it and held it in my hands, paper warm from the printer. Not because I needed it for him, because I needed it for me. Then I called Mom. Her voice came through small, like she'd been living in a tight space. Mom. Bree? Me. I saw it. Mom. I'm sorry. Me. I'm not asking you to apologize anymore. Me. I'm asking you to stop protecting him. She inhaled, shaky. Mom. I was scared. Me. I know. Me. But I'm done being the price of your peace. We sat in quiet for a beat. Not dramatic, just true. Mom. What happens now? Me. Now I stop negotiating my existence. The next Sunday, Aunt Denise hosted again. Same table, same placemats, different air. Dad didn't come. Tessa didn't come. The throne stayed empty. People ate, talked, laughed, passed dishes. But every time a fork hit a plate with a small clink, my spine still tightened. Then I exhaled and let it pass. Because the clink wasn't his anymore. It was just sound. Aunt Cheryl updated us with a text. Aunt Cheryl. Probate filing is a petition to amend beneficiaries and assert no legal relationship. Aunt Cheryl. Attorney says it's weak, but it shows intent. Intent. That was the real villain all along. Ms. Patel filed our response and preservation notice. We requested additional sealed materials through the correct motion process. Not to splash them around, to keep Dad from playing magician with missing pages. A week later, Dad tried again. A voicemail, softer, slippery. Dad. Bree, I didn't mean it like that. Dad. Tessa got in my head. Dad. Come over, we'll talk. I listened once, then saved it. Time-stamped. Backed up. I didn't call back. I mailed the attorney letter certified mail. The green receipt card came back with his signature on it. Ink on a small rectangle, proof he received the boundary. That tiny card felt better than any shouting match. The family changed around me, slowly, the way people change when they can't pretend. Uncle Ray stopped calling Dad Big Man. Denise stopped inviting him automatically. Jada stopped texting me, "Are you okay?" and started texting me, "Proud of you." I didn't need their praise. I needed the shift. And the shift stayed. On a Friday afternoon, Mom met me at a coffee shop. Bright windows, loud grinders, a line of people staring at menu boards. Normal life, holding space for something heavy. She slid a small envelope across the table. Her hands shook once, then steadied. Pass Mom. I found this in a cookbook. Me. What is it? Mom. A copy. Mom. I hid it. Inside was an old, faded copy of a hearing notice. The case title, the division, the full case number. Her handwriting on the top corner. Keep. My throat tightened, but I didn't let tears take the wheel. I pressed my palm to the paper and felt its dryness, a relic that survived his control. Me. Thank you. Mom. I should have given it to you years ago. Me. You gave it when it mattered. That night I scanned it and sent it to Ms. Patel. Then I updated my will. Not because I had much. Because I wanted a life no one could hijack. I designated beneficiaries. I wrote instructions. I named the people who had earned access to me. And then, for the first time, I changed something for myself that had nothing to do with him. And I updated my emergency contact. I updated my medical proxy. I updated my mailing address settings. Small steps, big freedom. Dad didn't lose money that day. He lost something he valued more. He lost the ability to control the story. He thought he could erase me with a sentence at a BBQ. But the court file had receipts, and receipts don't care about his ego. If you liked this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments.